I call the regular meeting of the Milliken Board of Trustees for August 24th, 2022 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the town clerk please call roll?
Trustee Beckman? Here. Trustee Dean?
Here.
Trustee Lane?
Here.
Trustee Rodriguez? Here. Trustee Wakeman?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Here.
Mayor Austin?
Here. Does anyone have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez? Yes. Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Trustee Beckman? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Citizens' comment is the point in the meeting where the public is invited to address the town board on any items except agenda items for which there is a public hearing. Do I have anybody that wishes to address the board? Hearing none, we'll go to the meeting minutes. Is there any discussion or comments on the meeting minutes for August 10th?
It's not listed in the attendance and was there.
Any other changes? Take a motion.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez? Yes. Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Trustee Beckman? Yes. Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. We have acknowledgement of the paid list of bills. Do I have any comments or questions on the bills that were included? Mr. Nickerson, we are not receiving the Visa breakdown with our bills anymore.
Good evening. Yeah, it's the third page there is the breakdown of the Visa bills.
So it was included this month. Okay. I guess it was last month.
Okay, I apologize if you didn't get it last month.
Okay.
I can track that down and send it to you.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, Town Administrator's Report. Administrator Powell.
Thank you, Mayor. So, attended Beef and Bean Day. I found it to be a great day. It was really nice to be able to get out with the public and town staff. We don't usually get together like that. So I think it was a great event. So hats off to the Milliken Events Committee and to our public works staff for putting this all together. We did receive a lot of questions regarding, from the public regarding the upcoming ballot items and a lot of questions regarding the comprehensive plan update. So it was very beneficial, I think, to be able to talk to citizens about both those. Smoke detectors have been installed at Town Hall. So after 20-some years, the Town Hall now has smoke detectors.
Oh my gosh.
The engineering on the Cherry Street Drainage Project is near completion, and staff would like to apply for a DOLA Tier 2 grant in order to construct the project. So I believe that is coming up later on in the agenda. Staff also attended a Safe Routes to School question and answer session yesterday, and from my understanding, they found it to be very beneficial, and we're in the process of filling out the application. So, as I indicated during the work session, the open fence from the mobile home park has been closed in preparation for a safer route with the flashing beacons once we receive the permit from the Colorado Department of Transportation. So hopefully that will be coming soon. Today, we received information that the engineering firm that has been assigned by the Natural Resources Conservation Services, so that's NRCS, to perform a preliminary feasibility study on the Hillsborough Reservoir will be meeting with staff and members of the Hillsborough Ditch Company. That meeting is going to take place in September, and I think they've narrowed it down to September 9th. So I will keep you updated on that as well. So we're moving forward. We'll see what they have to say.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
I would like to compliment the town staff on what they did to support the Beef and Bean Day. They started their day at 4:30 in the morning due to some destruction that we had out there, but quickly recovered, and they were able to support us all day long. We really, really appreciate their efforts. So thank you on behalf of the committee. All right, next up is the consent agenda. We have one item. It's the consideration and adoption of resolution number 2219, support of DOLA Affairs Energy and Mineral Impact Assistance Program grant. I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the action agenda, we have, the first item is a public hearing for the consideration and approval of a conditional use review and site plan and resolution 22-20 for a 4-megawatt solar development. Presenting will be Pepper McClanahan, Community Development Director, and since this is a public hearing, the time is now 6:36 and it is open.
Mayor and members of the Board of Trustees, the public hearing tonight is to consider two separate actions. The first would be a conditional use review and approval, and then pending your decision on that would be consideration of the site plan for construction of 4-megawatt solar development on 35 acres. The property is zoned medium industrial and it's located south of Inez Boulevard. There are two properties that are involved in this. It is not a platted subdivision, but there are a number of deeds on this property, and it is owned by Platt Land and Gravel, the applicant, or excuse me, Platt Land and Water, LLC. The applicant is CBEP Solar 4 LLC, or Cloud Break Energy, and we do have representatives for the application here, and they do have a presentation for you following any questions you might have on the staff report. Resolution 2220 approves the conditional use. There were quite a number of attachments on your packets, and I will try to call attention to some new things that were submitted post publication of the agenda and the staff report. The property is presently vacant. It was previously used for agricultural uses. The surrounding land uses include to the north Settlers Village and Fossil Park subdivisions used for residential and recreational uses. To the west is a Union Pacific Railroad, and across from that to the west is a Sunfield subdivision. To the south is part of the property that is owned by the same company, which is Platt Land and Water LLC. It's used for agricultural. To the east, there's vacant property. It's owned by the PUC, and there are some oil and gas development as well on those for uses. The comprehensive plan designates this property for business and industrial uses. Notices were mailed to surrounding property owners as well as published in the Johnstown Breeze, and the property was also posted with a sign. For background, Cloud Peak Energy, or CBEP Solar 4 LLC, has applied for a conditional use approval and site plan approval to construct the Platt Solar Project It is an Excel Solar Rewards Community Program. And construction, there was an update to their narrative, which includes construction hours of operations will be 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., with overtime hours extending to possibly 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and Saturdays as needed. Construction is proposed to extend to approximately 4 months with approximately 25 people on site. A roughly 1 acre laydown area is indicated for staging and equipment construction, and will remain in place for the duration of the project's life for the operation and maintenance of the site. The application materials include a number of different technical reports, including traffic, drainage. There is an update to the weed mitigation plan, which was handed out to you. It came in fairly recently. There was a habitat assessment and review and comments from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, as well as the DNR. A decommissioning plan was included, and the second document that was handed out to you was information on the soils report, which was reviewed by the town engineer. That was pertaining to the Front Range Fire and Rescue District's comments about the internal roads being able to accommodate 80,000-pound fire apparatus. And I will note that joining us today on Zoom are representatives from FRFR in order to address those comments. Compliance with the code, staff prepared this report in conjunction with the 16.2200, which is the medium industrial district, section 16.6360, which is conditional use review, and section 16.6370 for the site plan. The following criteria are used to evaluate the conditional use review. The conditional use is consistent with the intent, purpose, and use of other zoning districts. It will satisfy applicable provisions of the land use code and subdivision regulations. Again, this is not being subdivided. The only variance that is being sought for this is relative to the site plan. The applicant is requesting relief from landscaping requirements for the site. It will conform and further the goals, policies, and strategies in the comp plan and the parks, open space, and trails plan. The conditional use will adequately serve public utilities, services, and facilities. And there's some information represented in there regarding their requirements or lack of requirements for water, sewer. They will generate electric. Fire protection is included in the comments, and we'll visit with about those in the next section of staff report. And not impose an undue burden on town services or the district. Conditional use will not substantially alter the character of the district in which it is proposed. Again, this is medium industrial zoning. The conditional use will result in efficient on and off-site traffic circulation. There was a traffic report provided and reviewed by our town engineer and our streets director. Potential negative impacts, including setbacks, architecture, screen walls, landscaping, site arrangements, or other methods have been addressed, and the applicant shall address those impacts. Those are listed in the staff report. For the site plan, the criteria are that all of the information required on the site plan is shown. The lot size and lot dimensions are consistent with what is shown on the approved final plat. Again, there is no plat of this subdivision or this property. No building or structures infringe on any easements. The proposed site grading is consistent with the requirements of the current town master drainage plan and on file at the town hall, and the proposed improvements conform to Division 4, Article 3 of this chapter. So referral comments, we did get a number of back and forth referral comments, so I'll quickly go through these. Colorado Parks and Wildlife did review extensively their wildlife assessment that they provided, and along with a number of other sites. I believe there were 3 other sites that they reviewed where this same company is proposing this same source solar project. I reached out to them again after the application was submitted to be sure they didn't have any additional comments, and they said that they just request consideration for fencing, native reseeding, and noxious weed control. And there is both the weed control plan as well as an update provided to you. Front Range Fire and Rescue District reviewed comments on the 12th, and then again we received some additional comments this week which are included. They wanted the 80,000-pound fire apparatus road construction to be addressed, which it was. Their further concern had to do with weed maintenance control plan regarding light fuels, grasses, and et cetera. We noted that current town code requires compliance with the 6-inch growth. And the applicants are going to request a different plan for that. But typically, if it was over 6 inches, I believe that our code enforcement officer would be issuing a citation for that. The Will County Environmental Health recommended a couple of different things. Again, some things that they provide, which included proper storage and removal of waste to protect surface and groundwater, that dust and particulate emissions be controlled throughout the duration of the construction of the facility, and that adequate toilet facilities and hand washing units be provided and serviced during construction. The Planning Commission held a public hearing last week on August 17th. One individual expressed concerns about glare from solar panels and amending the weed maintenance plan to include more maintenance than once a year. Staff commented that conditions of approval include compliance with all municipal code, including the height of weeds. The applicant testified that they will consider use of sheep or other methods to control the weeds. Regarding concerns of glare, the applicant explained that the solar panel technology is designed to absorb sunlight and reflect it, and reflection is similar to looking at a body of water such as a lake. During the hearing, a question arose about surface uses that the proposed solar structure may infringe upon. That specifically was a road or an access used by the Union Pacific. We received documentation that was included in your packet on August 19th from the UPRR representatives that this was not a concern. They no longer use that access, and they have a different route that they can access for maintenance of the railroad. Based on testimony presented, the Planning Commission forwarded a recommendation of approval for the conditional use and for the site plan to the Board of Trustees with the conditions. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends a finding that the applicant's request is consistent with the comprehensive plan, land use code, conditional use review, and site plan criteria with the conditions of approval listed below. And some of these may be adjusted tonight based on those recent submittals. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit and adoption of the attached resolution. Conditional upon that the site plan also has to be approved. The conditional use review and permit shall be reviewed annually by town staff, and a report of compliance with the conditions of approval provided to the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees. The conditional use review and permit may be revoked for noncompliance with the conditions of approval or noncompliance with the requirements of the Milliken Municipal Code. Security in the form of an irrevocable letter of credit, bond, or other acceptable form of surety in an amount to fund estimated decommissioning and reclamation costs. These include disposal costs. shall be provided to the town. The amount of the surety shall be based on a cost estimate from a professional engineer licensed in the state of Colorado and updated every 5 years in order to keep costs current. Decommissioning and reclamation costs shall include costs associated with dismantling, recycling, and safe removal of the facility components and all site reclamation activities. Number 5, the conditional use review and site plan are subject to any and all required local, state, and federal permits and approvals. The applicant shall provide documentation that required permits are obtained from the UPRR for improvements across a railroad right-of-way. Number 7, and that is in process from the applicant. Number 7, a fence permit is required by the town with the fence not to exceed the maximum height of 7 feet per municipal code. The site plan must address all comments from staff and reviewing agencies for the revised site plan, which was submitted August 12th of 2022, and requested changes included on the final site plan documents prior to recording. So again, there are 2 separate actions, so there are a couple of suggested motions in your packet. The first one being addressing the conditional use permit, and then the second one would be addressing the site plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, let's go through and see if the board has any questions of Pepper McClanahan, and then we'll move to presentation by the applicants. So starting with Trustee Wakeman, do you have any questions of Ms. McClanahan?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Trustee Lane?
Not right now.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Not at this time.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
I have none.
Trustee Beckman?
No.
Trustee Dean?
No.
Okay. All right, so we don't have any questions for you, but I believe the applicants have a presentation. Please step up and state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Zach Bramer. My address is 408 Melba Road, Sterling, Colorado. As I mentioned, my name is Zach Bramer. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer of Cloudbreak Energy Partners. We're a local solar development company that was founded and based out of Sterling, Colorado. I'm really excited to be working with the town of Milliken on this project. And so without further ado, I'll get into what we've been referring to as the Platt Solar Project.
Can you pull the mic down a little closer to you?
Yes, sorry.
Perfect.
Is that better?
Thank you.
Okay. So the basic project information, as Pepper mentioned quite a bit of this, it's located just south of Inez Boulevard near the intersection of County Road 46, also known as Inez Boulevard, and County Road 25. It's located in a medium industrial or I2 zone district, and it's owned by Platt Land and Water LLC. We're proposing to build a 4 megawatt AC community solar garden. And so what a community solar garden is it's a centrally located solar project that any Xcel Energy customer in the state of Colorado can subscribe to receive a discount on their electricity bills without having to put any money down or build a project on the roof. So it works really well for people who are renting their homes, living in apartment buildings, or just don't want to have to go through the hassle of installing a solar system on the roof. They can subscribe to this project and receive all the same financial benefits of having a solar system on the roof without having to go through the hassle of it. So it turns out to be a really good deal for people, and they don't have to put any money down. And so this project will include approximately 12,000 solar panels mounted to single-axis tracking racks. And so these single-axis tracking racks allow the solar projects, or the solar modules, to track the sun from east to west over the course of a day. And so all the panels will start off in the morning facing east, and they'll slowly follow the sun across the sky. It will also include all of the other associated electrical equipment, including inverters, 2 transformers, combiners, other equipment, an access road, and a perimeter game fence, which here it says up to 8 feet tall. After discussing with Pepper, we will be keeping that at a height of 7 feet tall to comply with Milliken regulations. And it's located on approximately 34 acres on the northern side of a larger 279-acre property. Construction is expected to take about 3 to 4 months, and we're hoping to start as soon as possible, as soon as all these permits are wrapped up. So we're aiming for a September 2022 construction start date. And once this project is completed, it will produce about 10 million kilowatt hours of electricity every year, which is the equivalent which is equivalent to the annual electricity consumption of about 900 homes. And just for reference, there are about 2,600 homes here in the town of Milliken according to the 2020 census. So that means we can hopefully have 900 local homes subscribing to the system and benefiting quite a big chunk of the community, which would be awesome. And this is part of Xcel Energy Solar Rewards community program. So, as a local Colorado company, we love providing direct benefits to the communities in which we operate. And so we want to make sure that every single project we do really kind of brings something back to the communities where we're building these projects. So with this particular project, it'll provide pretty significant local business activity during construction. We'll have about 25 people on site at any given time. They'll be here for 3 to 4 months, and so they'll be shopping at all of your local stores, eating at all your restaurants, staying at local hotels, and should generate quite a bit of local business. After last week's meeting, we all went over to Goober's Ice Cream, spent quite a bit of money over there. It was fantastic ice cream. For scholarships, every single one of our projects, we do an annual full ride scholarship per project. And so we'll probably work with a student at Roosevelt High School who's interested in a career in renewable energy and help them fund their first year of college, which would be great. It's also expected to generate significant tax income for the community. So over the course of this project's life cycle, it's expected to generate over $1 million in property tax revenue, and it'll also generate significant sales tax revenue during the construction process. And again, as I mentioned, it being a community solar project, we're hoping that we can get all 900 subscribers from the town of Milliken, so that way there's 900 homes here in Milliken that are getting a 10% discount on their electricity bills through Xcel Energy Solar Rewards community program. And so to go over the project location in a little bit more in depth, we've highlighted it in this blue color. So as we mentioned, just south of County Road 46 and just to the west of County Road 25, and it kind of follows the curvature of the Union Pacific Railroad. And here's just another similar view, but with parcel boundary lines turned on, so that way you can see kind of the larger Platte Land and Water parcel with us just using the northern 34 acres. And as Pepper already mentioned, it is in a medium industrial or I2 zone district. And in the long-term comprehensive plan and the framework plan map, it's listed as a business and industrial use. So solar fits in really well with both of those. So to get into some frequently asked questions that we get about a lot of our projects, first and foremost, the most common one is what's it going to look like? And so here are 3 example photos of very similar solar projects. So as we mentioned, these panels will be tracking the sun across the sky throughout the day. So these are very similar to the equipment that we will be using. Ours may be a little bit shorter and they'll be spaced further apart between rows, but otherwise this is a pretty good look at what this project will look like when it's all wrapped up. Another commonly asked question is how much noise does it generate? And thankfully, solar projects are relatively quiet. The modules or the solar panels don't make any noise. The motors that are used to help the panels track the sun throughout the day really don't make a lot of noise. The noisiest piece of equipment is the inverter. And so on this page, what I've done here is kind of shown where each of the inverter banks are going to be located. So each of these inverter banks, there's going to be 16 inverters. These inverters, each one of them will generate a maximum of 65 decibels of sound. And so altogether, when you put 16 of these generating 65 decibels together, that creates a maximum of 77 decibels. And keep in mind, that's the maximum. So that'll be only, 4th of July weekend or, middle of the summer when there's a ton of sun. And so there's a lot of electricity flowing through these and they have to cool themselves off a lot. That's when they're going to be at their loudest. So this will only happen kind of peak summer. And so from 1 meter away, or about 3 feet, it'll be 77 decibels, which is about as loud as a vacuum cleaner. And then if you can see this red line, which I know is a little bit hard to see on the screen, that's from that distance, it's only 55 decibels, which is the daytime noise limit at residential property lines according to the Colorado Noise Statute, and that's about as loud as a refrigerator. And then from the dark blue line, that is the Colorado Noise Statute nighttime noise limit at residential property lines. But please note, these inverters will only be generating any kind of noise during the day when the sun is shining and we're producing electricity. And from the green line, These inverter banks will only be producing about 40 decibels, which is equivalent to the noise level in a quiet library. So as you can see, that even the noisiest pieces of equipment are very quiet from the property lines. Another very commonly asked question is, how do solar projects affect neighboring property values? So overall, solar projects are relatively unobtrusive neighbors. We generate no traffic or very little traffic once the project is complete, no emissions, no odors, and as we just discussed on the last slide, very little sound. And solar projects also give neighbors assurance that this land is not going to be developed into a more unfavorable use. With this being a medium industrial zone, some of the uses by right include things like truck stops and things that would be a little bit more obtrusive neighbors. And so we've also found a few studies that have shown that solar projects do not adversely impact neighboring properties. One of the largest ones was done by Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. They partnered with the University of Texas at Austin to survey 400 property value assessors nationwide. And those results indicated that most respondents believed that proximity to a solar installation either had no impact or a positive impact on nearby home values. And the positive impact was typically only in the cases that I just mentioned, where it could have been a different use or used to be a different use, like a gas station or a truck stop, but instead a solar project went in there, and that was typically when property values increased. But it typically has almost no impact in either direction. There's also studies from Cohn-Resnick LLP, Kirkland Appraisals LLC, and the chair of the American Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers have also done studies on this and found similar findings. And I already touched on this a little bit earlier, but just again, a community solar garden is a centrally located solar system that provides electricity to any Xcel Energy customer in the state of Colorado that subscribes through Xcel Energy's Solar Rewards community program. And so to allow Xcel customers in the area to save money on their electric bills without having to put any money down or install a system on the roof. So it ends up being a really good deal for folks. And another commonly asked question is, how is the project going to affect drainage? And so our team has performed a very in-depth analysis of drainage, which was included in our application, based on the town of Milliken's criteria and the Mile High Flood District's criteria. And based on that study, the existing stormwater flow characteristics are expected to remain completely unchanged or almost completely unchanged. And any increases in peak flow rates have been proven to be negligible. And so this development is not expected to affect any historic drainage patterns at all. Another commonly asked question and a concern that was raised in the previous hearing was, does the system produce any glare? And so modern solar panels are designed to just absorb sunlight, not reflect it. And so every panel is treated with an anti-reflective coating on the front. And the entire goal of a solar module is to absorb the sunlight to convert into electricity. And so the solar panels these days and the panels that we're planning to use on this particular project reflect as little as 2% of incoming sunlight, which is less than water in windows. So it'll be less than looking at a flat lake. It'll be less glare than what comes off of a flat lake. And many airports, including DIA, do have solar projects on site. Another commonly asked question is, do solar projects produce any electric and magnetic waves or frequencies, also sometimes referred to as just electric interference? And they do produce very low EMF, only about 60 hertz. EMF produced by typical cell phones, radios, and microwaves are much higher at about 30,000 hertz. So it's a large factor difference. And again, construction is expected to last on this project for about 4 months. Another commonly asked question is, how many workers will be on the property during construction? And we expect there to be about 25 workers on the property at any given time throughout that entire 4-month duration. And how many workers will be on the property during system maintenance? So, once we're done with the project, we're only going to need to stop by about 4 to 8 times per year, and we'll just stop by in a pickup with about 1 to 4 people in it to maintain the system. Obviously, with vegetation management, we'll probably have to stop by much more often. And if we have a shepherd grazing, he'll probably be there daily. And the system is expected to be there about 20 to 35 years. Our contract with Xcel Energy lasts for 20 years. Our lease with the landowners lasts for 35 years. And so, it'll be there for a minimum of 20 years. If we can renegotiate a contract with Xcel or find a different, person to buy that electricity at year 20, we will then, pursue that. Another commonly asked question is, will this project generate any additional traffic? And once the system is built, again, we'll only stop by about 4 to 8 times per year for land and system maintenance. Obviously, if we have a shepherd, he'll be there much more often. But during peak construction, the traffic is going to include about 10 to 15 pickups and 1 to 2 heavy vehicles per day. So relatively limited traffic even during peak construction. And this system is expected to cover about 34 acres of the larger 279-acre parcel. Another commonly asked question is, will it produce any emissions or odors? No, the solar project does not produce any emissions or odors. And another common neighbor concern is, will this affect the reliability of my electric service? And the answer to that is no. In fact, we are going to be upgrading Xcel Energy's distribution network between the property that we're leasing and the Johnstown substation. And so all of the wires in between those 2 locations will be upgraded. We'll be adding new protective equipment. So if anything, it should get more reliable in the area. Another common question is someone going to maintain the land around the system? Yes, the land around the system will be maintained throughout the life of the system. Our panels, when the panels are at full tilt early in the morning and late in the evening, there's only 18 inches of clearance between the bottom of the panel and the ground. And so if we let weeds get any taller than 18 inches, it's going to start casting shade on our panels, which is bad for business. So we want to keep those below 18 inches. And so we'll be ensuring that the vegetation under and around the system is well kept, and we'll get into this a little bit later because we are seeking an exception to Milliken's 6-inch rule. And our plan is to plant native pollinator-friendly grasses underneath the system. Another commonly asked question is, will there be any lighting installed on the project? We are not planning on installing any lighting on this particular project, so it'll be completely dark at night. There won't be any lights shining into any neighboring windows. Another commonly asked question is, will there be any hazardous materials included in the system? And some silicon-based solar panels, like the ones we're using, do use a lead-based solder, but the lead volume is incredibly small, and it's all safely and durably enclosed within the solar module itself. And the lead cannot be released into the environment without the panel completely breaking apart. And we've found that this doesn't happen even in the worst hailstorms in Colorado. The panel doesn't bust apart. It would really take someone going up to it with a hammer and smashing the panels. And so if something like that were to happen, we would definitely take care of it. But it's very unlikely that any lead would ever leave the panel. And for additional context, panels typically contain about 12 to 14 grams of lead, and a 12-gauge shotgun slug that you would use for hunting may contain about 27.3 grams of lead. Another commonly asked question is, can solar panels be recycled? And the answer is yes, solar panels can be recycled. They're typically made out of about 76% glass, 10% plastic, 8% aluminum, 5% silicon, and 1% other metals. So a large majority of it is very easily recyclable materials. And what are the hours of operation during the project's construction? We're planning to be out on the site from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day, with some overtime as needed. We'll be out there as late as 6 p.m. on some nights, and that'll just be Monday through Friday, with Saturdays as needed. Given that we're probably going to have some weather delays, given that we'll be constructing towards the end of the year, and we're trying to get the project built before the end of the year, we will likely be utilizing both overtime and Saturdays. And the land use of the project is broken down between, about a little bit less than an acre for our access road. 14.5 acres is going to be completely untouched, just vacant grassland. There's going to be just 2 small concrete pads that will mount our transformers on top of. That'll take up only 0.03 acres of land. There will be 1 grass swale just to prevent any, sort of drainage issues. Again, we did look into the drainage and we aren't expecting any impacts, but we are building a grass swale on the eastern side of the property just in case. And then the solar racking itself will take up about 19.2 acres, so roughly half of what we're leasing. And the laydown area where we'll be staging and keeping the portable toilets and things like that during construction will be about 0.96 acres. So here is the overall layout of the site. You have the Bernhardt property here in the middle. There's Inez Boulevard on the north side. Our access road comes off County Road 46, or Inez Boulevard and wraps around to our equipment. Again, here is one of the inverter banks that I mentioned. So these are the noisy pieces of equipment. One is located here, another one here, and that is about it. Oh, and we have the Union Pacific Railroad just making a loop around the entire property. Again, at the last meeting, Mr. Bernhardt brought up that Union Pacific had been using this particular access road to access their tracks. They confirmed in writing for us that they do have other routes to get to this Y, and so they'll no longer be needing this access road, which is great. And then we have a few just closer up pictures. Oh, I went one too far. But yeah, these are just closer up pictures of the same site plan. So we have the access road coming off of County Road 46. This is the laydown area where we'll just be doing construction staging, and then just our rows of panels. And this is the grass swale that I mentioned for drainage. Just another close-up. And this is a detail of what the project will look like if you're looking at it from the side. And so again, as I mentioned, there's at least 1.2 feet of clearance. Typically, it's about 18 inches. And at full tilt, so the modules will tilt 55 degrees in either direction. And so this is just kind of demonstrating approximately what that will look like. So it'll be, about the same height as this podium is where the panels will tilt. So it's about that high. And this is just another detail from the side, just kind of showing you from both directions. This is what it would look like if you drove past on the road. And this is what we're planning to do for the fence. So it's just a typical 7-foot tall game fence with a hog mesh on it.
The fence would stay the whole time?
Sorry, what was that?
The fence will stay?
Yes, the fence will stay the whole time. That's
and it'll
correct.
Be around the entire area?
Yep, yeah, it'll be around the entire project. That's correct. And that is it, but I am available for any questions that you all may have.
And if they're using a mesh, it's mostly to just keep animals out?
Yep, correct, yeah.
Vaguely wondering if residents in the area are not going to want to see the solar panel farm. They want a solid fence.
Who was asking that?
No, I said I was vaguely wondering if, because I'm looking at the homes that are north and to the west.
Well, they were all sent a letter. They could have responded if they didn't, so.
Okay, good point. All right, other questions from the board? Trustee Wakeman?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Do you have other facilities similar to this in our area? Or
Not in the area. All the ones in the area are currently under permitting, kind of in a similar stage. We have one under construction in Sterling, and then Dylan from our construction team has done who knows how many hundreds of these across the state. So he could probably point out ones that'll look the most like this one will look. But I think the closest one I could think of would probably be the one in Meade off of the highway. Would probably look fairly similar to what this one will look like.
Where's that located again?
I can't remember which highway, but it's right in Meade. I can't think of what highway that is. Oh, is it 34? Yeah, I think it's off of 34 in Meade.
34?
Yeah.
East of the
Oh,
interstate?
County Road 34? Okay, yeah, it's County Road 34.
East of the interstate?
Yep, east of the interstate.
West.
Is that one west?
Past the school. If it's on County Road 34.
Okay.
Between County Line Road and Lithium, that's across from the ponds.
Yep, yeah, that one sounds right, yeah. That one sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's west of.
Okay.
Between 3 and 5.
Then my other question was, will it will be visible from Inez Boulevard?
Yes, yes, it will be.
And approximately how many feet is it off of the?
I believe our setback is, the fence is set back, I believe, 25 feet or whatever the zoning code requires. And then our panels will be set back, I believe, another 15 feet from there, if I remember correctly. So it'll be a total of about 40 feet off the road.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Lane?
The solar program that people can take advantage of,
Yeah.
you said there's no cost?
Yeah, that's correct.
You just sign up for it and you get 10% off of your bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that just for people who don't already have solar panels on their roof? Is it for anybody?
I'm not sure. I think anyone, but I'll check with Excel and get back to you. But at the moment, I believe it's set up where anyone with a residential bill can sign up. So I'm not sure if it changes if you have solar already or if it could be anyone.
Okay. All right. The fence part, it makes sense if it, I mean, to have it covered up, I mean, because it's a 7-foot high fence, it would pretty much, you wouldn't even be able to see it, right?
Yeah.
If it's a chain link,
Mesh.
a mesh fence, but mesh fences, well, you can get those metal, I don't know what you call them, that go slats. I don't know if you've done that in other projects, but that would be fairly inexpensive, and then it wouldn't even be visible unless you're at a heightened elevation.
Yeah, the screening you're talking about, the slats, is fairly labor intensive, and typically with this hog mesh fence, we would do some sort of like what you would see on a tennis court.
Would you mind stepping up to the podium with the mic so
Sure.
Sorry.
Hi, Dylan Reitenbach here, and I'm at 5743 West 118th Circle in Westminster. So as I was saying, typically we would install that type of screening with like a chain link fence. Typically with the 7-foot or 8-foot hog fence, we would have some sort of a black semi-see-through type of screening material that we would stretch out, tighten, and fasten to the fence itself.
Okay. All right. So a 20-year lease, that type of material wouldn't deteriorate or start looking bad, and I mean, it would still look really nice. I mean, if you use that kind of thing to kind of.
So any type of screening with UV damage is going to deteriorate rather quickly, and we would be needing to maintain that material, throughout the lifetime of the system. This fence that we're proposing is identical to what you're going to see along the highway for game crossings. It's every 10 feet we will have a wooden post. And you can see through the fence, but it's a fairly less intrusive looking and more natural looking fence versus what you would see in a chain link fence.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and trustees, may I ask a question? I want to clarify that will comply with the comments from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and CDPHE for game-friendly fence?
Yes, that will comply with CPW's comments. Yeah.
All right. Trustee Rodriguez, your questions?
I have two, if I may. The first one, it just kind of, the 10% off the bill, is that an accumulated total that they get a credit each month, or is that an accumulated
Yeah, so this is where it starts to get complicated. So the way that it works is when a subscriber signs up through Xcel Energy, they will get a credit on their bill, and then they would strike a deal with us where they would pay 90% of that credit back to us, and so hold on to 10% of it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it ends up being about a 10% discount, but it's a little complicated with the way it works. So Xcel would give them a credit on their bill, and then they would just have to sign a contract with us promising to send us back 90% of that credit.
So there's an additional step then for them? Is
Yes,
that what I'm
yeah. Well, usually the way that it works is we'll sign up, or we'll use a third-party software company, and so they could just sign in to their Xcel Energy account through this website, and then it would just all be handled on the back end, so someone wouldn't have to go through and actually, they wouldn't have to have 2 separate steps every month to pay their bill. It would all be handled kind of on the back end, so they would only have to subscribe once, sign up once, and then it's hands off from there. But the upfront, having to subscribe through a third party is a step, and they would have to sign a contract with us. So there is that step.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question, with the life of the solar panel, you stated that it would be 20 to 35 years that they would be there. But my understanding is with solar panels, they decrease over, at 15 years, they're usually about at 82% of what they're able to produce. So are you going to replace the solar panels as they decrease?
We aren't planning to at the moment because with the modules that we're planning to use, they're expected to only degrade at about 0.5% per year. And so after 20 years, they'll only be 10% less than what they're generating in the first year. And so modern solar panels are actually, much better than what they have been historically. And so our warranty, I think we're warranted for at least 85% production, if I remember correctly, until year 20. And so they do last quite a while. And so at the moment, we're expecting to keep the same modules there for the full duration of the lease.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Dean.
I take it this is limited to Xcel customers?
Yes, unfortunately. But there's more coming to other utility territories here soon, so we'll keep you in the loop.
Trustee Beckman?
And will you be communicating that to customers, or Xcel would be in charge of that?
We will be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How will you do that?
Typically what we do is as we start to construct the project or get closer to it finishing, we'll send out letters in local newspapers, send people postcards, really do whatever we can to get people. We have quite a few of these projects, and so I think in total we're going to need to find 15,000 homes across all of our projects, so there's going to be a big push for us to find people. So we'll definitely probably be advertising the Johnstown Breeze, sending out postcards to local folks, and advertising on local radio stations. So, yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich, any questions?
I have no questions.
I have no further questions. So, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And we'll open up for any other public comments on this project. Please approach the podium and state your name and address.
Mayor, trustees, David Bernhardt, 23809 Will County Road 25, Milligan, Colorado. My main concern, and it was brought up from the Planning Commission, is mainly is the weed problem. We can say that we're going to do all this stuff right off the start, but then you go down and drive down County Road 54 before you get to 65th Avenue. Look on the south side of the highway, you can see what one that isn't getting taken care of. You've got noxious weeds, and as soon as that thistle starts, it's blowing to every neighbor and everything else. And that's one of my main concerns, is we have to take care of our weeds. I know when we were farming the farm there, that was highly critical that we had to. When Platte Land and Water took over, you can see what that farm looks like now. It's nothing but a weed patch. So those are my main concern, yes.
Mr. Bernhardt, do you believe that the sheep can control the weeds appropriately?
Yes. I've seen quite a few sites. The site that they're talking about, they're lower. Sheep work really great in there. If you go down, Craig Sparrow has one that's on the south side of County Road 46. If you go east of Highway 60, going down there, he has a solar farm there, and he does have sheep. Cedar Greeley has also one at their Boyd Lake treatment plant, but the solar panels are higher, and they have a herd of goats out there, and it is immaculate. There's no weeds because the goats take care of everything. And the sheep would be also too. You know, and that's one of the things, and I hate to say it, but that's what needs to be done with our mountains too, is like cattle and sheep and stuff, take care of our fire mitigation.
Thank you for your comments. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Bernhardt?
Just who would own these sheep and maintain that?
Okay, there is people out there that actually have those. The state of Colorado uses a lot of goats and stuff on their highways to take care of in the mountains and stuff, to take care of the right-of-ways, and they hire people that actually own the goats and stuff, and they bring them in and herd them, and it's a people that do it for a living.
Well, that's interesting.
Do goats and sheep get along? Because there's a goat farm.
Yes, they do.
They do? There is a goat farm off of, I believe it's 46. That's where I take my grass clippings. Drop them off there.
Interesting. I had no idea.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other citizens' comments, concerns? Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Clifton Long. I live at 11814 County Road 46. I'm the house that they're actually going to be building the solar farm around. The only question I have is, what is the actual radiant heat does a solar panel itself produce? I mean, you take at like paved roads over dirt roads, you get much more radiant heat off the pavement over dirt. So I was just kind of wondering what the radiant heat out of, I think you said 12,000? Out of 12,000 is the radiant heat from them, because even though they're taking the amount of sun heat from it, is that going to make my property around there, you know, a little bit hotter? That was just my question. So, thank you.
Could you please address this question? Thank you.
Yeah, so a few different studies have looked into this, and they found that the biggest impact with temperature differences actually happen in like deserts or unvegetated areas. They found where there's vegetation under the panels, like what we're planning to do, it's actually a very negligible difference in temperature. So it's typically only solar projects that are out in the middle of the desert that this produces a lot of extra heat. But when you have vegetation underneath, it makes much less of an impact, and so they found that the temperature swings were negligible.
Does that address your concern, sir? Yes. Any other questions, concerns, or comments? Final comments from the board?
No, I don't think so.
Hearing none, the time is 7:26. I'll close the public hearing, and I'll take a motion on Resolution 22-20 for the conditional use permit first.
I move to adopt resolution number 22-20, approving conditional use permit for solar energy system large with the conditions set forth in the resolution.
I second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Second piece to this is the site plan. I'll take a motion on the site plan.
I move to approve the site plan for construction of the Platte Valley project on approximately 35 acres in the northeast quarter section, section 13, Township 4 North, range 67 West, subject to the conditions outlined by staff and approved in resolution number 22-20.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to pet the goats.
Sorry. You have to have a hole in the
Can we
fence.
do goat yoga?
Oh,
Can we do goat yoga out there?
goat yoga.
Goat yoga.
Goat yoga.
All right, we're a friendly board. Thank you very much.
Can we name them?
All right. Next item up is consideration and adoption of Resolution 22-17, referring a ballot question that would increase sales tax and use tax rates. Matthew Gould, Town Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Austin. The matter before you is one that we have discussed at some length. This is the proposal to raise the sales tax and the use tax from 2.5% to 3%. There's a bit of background on why we have to submit this to a vote in the memorandum, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, running through the board, questions. Trustee Dean.
I have none.
Trustee Beckman.
I have no questions.
Trustee Rodriguez.
I have none.
Trustee Lane.
I have none.
Trustee Wakeman.
No questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich.
I have none.
I have no questions either. Hearing no questions or discussion, I'll take a motion on the matter.
I'm like, anybody else want to talk tonight? I move for approval of resolution number 22-17, resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Milliken, Colorado, submitting to the registered electors of the Town of Milliken a ballot issue concerning whether the Town of Milliken should increase its existing sales tax and use tax rates.
I second.
Town Clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consideration and adoption of Resolution 22-18, referring a ballot question that would eliminate Tabor revenue limits. Matthew Gould, Town Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is a matter that we have discussed at length in the past. This is what we refer to as a proposal for debrucing, because it removes revenue limits that are otherwise applicable to the town. Again, there's a brief explanation of how Tabor works on this. The resolution sets both the ballot title and the ballot question, and the point in proposing this is to get it to the county so it can be made part of the combined election. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board, starting with Trustee Wakeman.
No questions.
Trustee Lane.
I have none.
Trustee Rodriguez.
No questions.
Trustee Beckman.
We may have been over this, but what happens to the revenue right now if
you hit those caps, it is refunded.
to the citizens or?
I see Wade nodding, so I've consulted with Wade a number of times in putting this stuff together, but yes, it's refunded.
Okay.
You got
Like the Colorado one we
checks
just-
in the mail from the state.
Yes.
This year.
Yeah.
That was because of Tabor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so what usually what your towns and counties do is they look at those revenue limits and they don't ever collect the money. That is what Milliken has done, is we don't collect the extra revenue. We lower the property tax rate in order to come in under those statutorily set revenue limits. So there's no money to give back. It's just it's a temporary credit on the property tax rate.
Okay.
Is how Milliken has handled it.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. No further questions.
Thanks, Wade.
Trustee Dean.
No questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich.
I have none.
Yes, I do not have any questions either.
Actually, I do have a question after.
Sure.
In the motion, it says in the title what the question will be on the ballot. It says that it refers to the Tabor Amendment. Do we have to have that in there?
So you're asking about the suggested motion and the caption on the resolution. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. I'm sorry, I probably stated that wrong. Does it need to be in the motion that it's has to do with the Tabor?
Well, it definitely has to be, the language in the ballot question has to include a reference to, it should include a reference to the Tabor Amendment. It doesn't necessarily have to say that phrase, Tabor Amendment. And as far as the resolution, if you wanted to reword the suggested motion and the caption on the resolution, that could happen, because that's not the key language. Key language is actually in the ballot question.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll take a motion on the matter.
I move for approval of resolution number 22-18, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Milliken, Colorado, submitting to the registered electors of the Town of Milliken a ballot issue concerning whether the Town of Milliken should be permitted to retain and spend revenues in excess of limits imposed by the Tabor Amendment found in Article 10, Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution.
I second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Trustee Lane.
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman.
Yes.
Trustee Beckman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich.
Yes.
Mayor Austin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Last item on the action agenda is consideration and authorization of a contract with Mountain Fire Alarm and Security for the Public Works Facility. John Ravis, Streets and Facilities Director.
Good evening. The current fire alarm system at the Public Works Facility is out of compliance with the fire codes and is not properly functioning. Replacement of the fire alarm system will bring us back into compliance. $40,000 was budgeted during the 2022 budget process, and the new fire system will include an addressable notification panel, pull stations, smoke detectors, wall and ceiling horn strobes.
You said this is currently budgeted for 40,000?
What was that?
It's currently in the budget for 40,000?
Yes.
You said? Okay.
Questions from the board for Mr. Ravis? Trustee Wakeman?
No.
Trustee Lane?
No.
Trustee Rodriguez?
No questions.
Trustee Dean?
No questions.
Trustee Beckman?
Nope.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
No.
Doesn't sound like we have any questions for you. Hearing no further questions, I'll take a motion on the matter.
I move to authorize the town administrator to sign a contract with Mountain Alarm Fire and Security for the installation of a fire alarm system at the Public Works Facility for $32,963.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Lane.
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman.
Yes.
Trustee Beckman.
Yes.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich.
Yes.
Mayor Austin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I do have one question. Did we have to vote on the weed issue with the solar? We didn't actually take a vote on that.
I don't know. I believe that was one of the conditions that they addressed that in accordance with the terms that they provided to Pepper.
Okay, so it was under one of the conditions.
Am I right, Pepper?
So we are completely covered.
Yeah, they were asking for waiver of, the waiver of the landscaping code as well as an adjustment to the weed height in our ordinance. And my apologies, those came in late. I didn't adjust the conditions of approval. FR was on here. I don't know that they gave us a specific height, but did you say that the solar operation that is on Welker or County Road 34 in Meade is one of your facilities?
No, it would just look like.
Oh, okay. Because it's mowed, but yes, my apologies. It does constitute a nuisance if it constitutes a fire hazard. So I'll turn it over to the applicant to address that.
Just as long as our motion covered what we needed for that.
Yeah, so we were proposing a height of 18 to 22 inches instead of 6 inches as it's listed in the code.
Right.
Mostly just because we're going to be planting native grass seeds, and so if we let them grow that tall, then they'll be able to naturally reseed themselves. So it'll keep a better ground cover, better forage for the sheep, and just better long-term health. Yes, we are going to include sheep. Probably not goats because they'll be able to get on the modules too easily and break things, but we will have sheep.
Go Prince.
Great.
And then Pepper, I don't know, we were also wondering about, we just had a question on the conditions. Do these conditional use, or these conditions of approval need to be met before we start construction or just by the end of construction? Or,
We can talk
oh,
about
okay.
which ones are
The one we were concerned about was the Union Pacific Railroad improvement across the railroad right-of-way.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh,
And-
yeah, sorry. So in one of the conditions of approval was documentation that required permits are obtained from Union Pacific Railroad for improvements across the railroad right-of-way. And so on the property, there's going to need to be electrical lines built in between our solar project and Xcel Energy's existing distribution grid. And that's going to have to cross Union Pacific Railroad right-of-ways. That is all being handled by Xcel Energy, so the permit will have their name on it. They're the ones actually handling the permitting process. And so we were hoping to strike that as a condition of approval, as long as, unless we can wait until after our construction is finished, because their construction will be done at about the same time as ours, but their construction process only lasts about 2 weeks, whereas ours lasts 4 months, and so Xcel is in no hurry to really wrap up their permits, whereas we are. And so that's why there's just a bit of a timing issue with that as a condition. So, sorry.
Mayor and trustees, I believe that the conditions include the entire construction. And it is my understanding that Xcel, based on some emails that Zach and his group shared with us, have already started applying for that in June. And so I would expect that the timing, I would, and if you want to amend it, that's fine, but I would say that it has to be provided by before start of operation.
Okay.
Not construction.
I think we're good. We're good. Matthew Gould, right?
I would say if you have any concern about the enforceability of the weed maintenance obligation, there's nothing wrong with amending the resolution to make that clear. Take a motion to amend the resolution to ensure that that condition is attached.
I think it's part of the conditions.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Trustee
I
Dean?
was going to make a motion.
Go ahead and make a motion. Let's get it taken care of now.
I would make a motion to amend the resolution for the conditional approval to include a waiver of the landscaping requirements to allow vegetation to not exceed 18 to 22 inches.
Second.
Was that Trustee Rodriguez? Sorry.
Yes, that was.
Give me just a second. I apologize.
No rush. Take your time.
Okay. Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure. All right. Hearing no more business before the board, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Take a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're out. Everybody have a nice evening.